All right. So this is green, black Dredge, or aristocrat, or not aristocrats, green, black Dredge, or whatever you want to call it. So Dredge, for those not familiar, is a mechanic where you take cards off the top of your deck and flip them into your graveyard. So decks like this that have Stitcher Supplier and Glowspore Shaman and these Explorer style cards that put cards from your deck into your discard pile are theoretically referred to as Dredge style decks. Someone just mentioned there's no copies of Blood from Bones in here, and yeah, I could see zero Blood for Bones being wrong. So part of the thing that I'm worried about with this deck, and this is something that we've talked about a lot today, is that this deck is kind of doing like mid-rangey things, and I feel like looking at this 75, like how do I ever beat my opponent scape shifting? Like, how do I ever beat my opponent, like, casting a big mass manipulation? How do I beat a Nissa consistently? So, I would not be surprised if this is a deck where we play a little bit of it, and the end result is it's like, well, this deck's doing kind of neat things, but it's just like, it's too close in the middle, and everybody else is just like going way up over the top of what we're doing. It just doesn't feel particularly competitive. Nexus decks are still a fringe thing, yep. Yeah, the answer to how do you beat those things is like be a bad aggro deck. That's probably not really where you really want to be in life. Like, these Forgers are probably unnecessary in this deck if I had to venture a guess. Like, we already have, this deck already has the Wildgrowth Walker in it as an anti-aggro card. So, like, maybe these Forgers could be like Blood for Bones, generate a little bit more value. But again, like, the kind of the small incremental value that this deck is trying to generate, generally speaking, is not good in this standard format. So, we're going to play some games. A lot of times, people comment like, well, Jeff, if you think this deck is bad, why are we playing it? And I'm just being open and transparent about potential issues I see with this deck before we play it, because sometimes we end up playing a deck and I'm pleasantly surprised by what the deck is doing. But I think that type of feedback that I give is what people are here to hear, so I think if I have low expectations, I like to be upfront about that. Maybe it's right to keep Glowspore Shaman, just like double 3-power dork. Looks like, smells like Scape Shift. And to be fair, we have a pretty good start here as far as like being a bad aggro deck is concerned, right? Like, we attacked for 7 on turn 4, which is like pretty good for this format. They're playing Bant Flash. Can my tier 3 be put towards a Yarok deck? It definitely can, Rad. As a heads up for my regulars, something that I should be plugging more. I haven't mentioned a ton today. Two bits of Hoaglandia related news. First is that this is our last day of Standard this week. Tomorrow I'm doing a short Magic Online only stream in the morning, and then I'm going to be off in the afternoon. I'm going to be off Thursday and Friday as well for Gen Con. So we still got plenty more Standard decks to play today, but this is going to be my last day doing Standard this week. Be back on Monday as always. Second is that this will be my last week with the Tempo Storm branding up. So Tempo Storm and I will be parting ways starting in August. So when that changes, that's why. There's no surprises there for folks. I don't think I want a Swamp on top of my deck, huh? We hit a Molderhulk here, though, so we do get to, like, Memorial to Folly and then put the Molderhulk back in, right? The Storm deck was never that interesting to me. Fair. Not actively looking for anything new as Zintoth. I'm technically still under contract through the end of the month, so I haven't really really put forth any effort. Honestly, it'll be interesting to me to see if there's still teams that are interested in Magic stuff, or if some of the hype has kind of died off. I wouldn't be super surprised if like some of the hype surrounding the game has died off as we've moved further from Wizards' big announcement and then gotten no new information. This is like our value engine at the top end. We sacrifice Memorial to pick up a 6/6, and the 6/6 gets the Memorial back, which is like kind of sweet in some of these games, but other places it does just get outclassed in the standard format. So they're going to make a 3/3 at the end of the turn with the Nightpack Ambusher, and then if they have at least one other creature inside of combat, they get to block all my stuff. Yeah, its lack of trample is a little bit awkward for sure. I think Cruel Celebrant will be better in Judith in the deck we just played. No, I don't think so. I think the fact that Judith gives all your creatures extra power is a big deal. If they tap out here, this Lotleth Giant trigger is very lethal. They could have an unsummon here, though. Smells like unsummon. Blink, yep. If they have a counterspell to go along with this, we're going to be in trouble. Yeah, Judith helps you have a little bit of board control too, which is nice. Yeah, we have a single copy of Izoni, which is okay. So when they counter this, I get to Memorial to Folly, pick back up a Molderhulk, play a Molderhulk. Okay. They didn't take the bait, chat. They didn't take the bait. And here I thought we were a master at baiting. Feels like we're just gonna kind of get locked out from here. I guess I get to Folly and pick back up the Giant eventually. But like they're making a free 3/3 every turn. So like if the rest of their hand does anything meaningful. I can't pick up and cast the Lotleth Giant this turn. So they get a turn cycle to this is a good pickup. Lets me sacrifice this to kill the Nightpack Ambusher. And it notably leaves me enough mana to still activate my Memorial to Folly this turn, so I can pick the Giant back up and try to Giant them next turn. So this puts the onus on them to like have a counterspell for this Cavalier and like have a counterspell for the Lotleth Giant next turn. My Molderhulk has been deposed. Top 50 to 92% in the course of 48 hours. We're nothing but skilled here. Mad skills here. We've not seen any white cards out of them yet. Oh, Depose Deploy. Depose Deploy is technically a white card, right? Alright, if that's not a counterspell and the top deck card of their deck's not a counterspell, we got him. Play around Quench. Yeah, that's a good suggestion. The post Quench land drop of shame there would have been real bad. Yeah, they've been to Cutthroat. This is really good for us because they're killing this, which gets back Harpooner, so we kill the Spectral Sailor here. This game feels pretty over. So I'll have a memorial down here too. Put them up. Put the dukes up. Alright, extra Harpooner seems fine here. Trophy seems reasonable. Necrotic Wound seems fine. I think I actually want to trim some of this top end here, right? I just want, like, my curve to be a little bit lower to the ground. You missed us. You missed us getting... It was a little bit better than the previous ones, Dude Light, but... We ended up getting dumpstered by a bunch of sweepers, which felt pretty bad. Hey, what's going on, Chewy? Yeah, life is wonderful. Thanks for keeping me around. I appreciate it. 30 creatures still. That seems fine. I think overall, it was probably just worse than Black Red Aristocrats, but it's probably one of the better Martyr decks we've played this season to set the bar low. With all the Self-Mole, Creeping Chill, Harpooner, could be Cavalier of Night, direct damage, and also life gain. Maybe. Like, the problem with Creeping Chill is that, like, it's not really an individually powerful card. And, like, our deck's not that aggressive, so, like, randomly doming people doesn't seem particularly good. There's a few different ways you can give Kraul Harpooner haste. We gave Kraul Harpooner haste with Domri Chaosbringer for a little bit. You also have Rhythm of the Wild. Someone had just mentioned Red Cavalier's activation's a good way to give Harpooner haste. When will Throne spoiler season typically start? I think it's usually 4 or 5 weeks out, but I don't know for sure. It's like saying something you're eating is healthier than McDonald's. Yep. Yep. Seeing seems reasonable. Got a Necrotic Wound and a Citrus Supplier. One of the cosmetics they haven't implemented yet that I hope that they do at one point. The Hex game that I used to play had custom battle boards that you could buy, that they had a lot of sweet ones. Having some control over the background that you play on would be a nice addition to the game, I think. Our opponent mulligan 2/4. Yikes. Why did I choose Underlords compared to another auto-chess game like Teamfight Tactics? Because Underlords runs natively on Linux and it plays on my cell phone. Although I haven't touched it for a bit. The more I played that style of game, the less I think it's for me. They're neat for a little bit, but when you sit there and hammer on it for like 20 plus hours a week, I kind of ran out of its luster pretty quickly for me. the not having a deck building aspect to the game kind of reduces the replayability. Yeah, the last couple balance patches felt a little meh, but I was also feeling kind of meh before them too. It feels like the key to being good at the auto battler games has a lot to do with memorizing compositions in the late game that end up being good. So like once people discover which compositions are good, the game becomes more about just like rogue memorization than just like actually like playing to like different synergies and stuff like that. And maybe that's a balance issue. But I find like things that are memorization is mental masturbation. It's just very tedious. It's not very satisfying. You're just like, eh. One of my buddies has started playing a little bit of TFT, and he said one of the things that they do, they don't let you overstack the board in TFT, which I think is a really good thing. Yeah, the global item system in Underlords leaves a little bit to be desired in its current state. Hopefully they do something to address that at some point. And that Necrotic Wound was very, very good. One mana kill your thing. Gives me tragic slip flashbacks. Anybody remember that one? That was a great removal spell. Yeah, I enjoyed the Underlords gameplay up until the point that I hit their big boss rank, which is like 2 from the top. And then I was playing against more people that like really understood what was better than the other things, and I couldn't just like draft what was open, because I felt like if I wasn't drafting one of the dominant strategies, I was just losing all the time. The soft slip is almost as good as the soft stub. Yep, really is. I also, apologies to everybody whose animals just freaked out and checked their door. That was my doorbell, not yours. I also, in preparation for playing a thing at Gen Con, I rediscovered some of my love for the Warhammer TCG, so I've been playing that on my cell phone recently instead of Underlords. Warhammer TCG uses the card game design space really elegantly in a way that also fits well into a cell phone. I don't have a doorbell and my cats went a little nuts. Apologies. So we want to stitch your Supplier before we Branchwalker. So that way if we leave a good card on top, we don't mill it away. We actually just milled 0 creatures there. That sounds great. Last time someone rang my doorbell twice, it was a Jehovah's Witness, so I'm not double checking. It's the witnesses again. We need a camera. That's a good idea, actually. That would probably be beneficial for my job. That's a good suggestion. Put them on stream, yep. No blocks. Go to 16. This is probably a good matchup for us. Wildgrowth Walker's always been good against these kind of dino mid-range decks. I don't have any creatures in my bin right now, so let's bottom that. Ring is a good option. I've done actual 0 research. I probably should at some point. So they have to discard a card here. They hit me with their 7-drop. I'm still their 7-power guy. I'm still at 22. If they attack, I get to block with Stitcher Supplier here. This feels like a really good example of why these Foragers are overkill. Just because, like, Wildgrowth Walker alone just, like, does enough life gain in matchups like this. I had a Jadelight Ranger on top of my deck from the Merfolk Branchwalker Explorer. So the reason I didn't chump block with this last turn was because I wanted to draw the Jadelight. For those asking. Now, the downside here is if they have Collision Colossus here, they could trample over this now. Yep. So if they attack with everything, they're dead on the backswing. Yeah, it could be Fine Finality. Could also be, we talked about Blood for Bones could be okay here too. We have a couple of Cavaliers, and Blood for Bones is like really good with the Cavaliers. If we hit an untapped land next turn, we get to play these Foragers out, which is nice. If I attack with everything, they're obligated to block. Leaves us dead to a couple of things here. I think I'm just gonna hope they don't have it. Hope it doesn't come off the top here. They'll trade here, they go to 2. If we hit the land, it would have gotten to play this and gain a bunch. Oh, I'm dumb. Oh, I'm dumb. These 2 aren't lethal. Yeah, that was a good block. Well, those matchups are usually good if you don't take them and spike them into the garbage can. Bring in some removal spells here. These seem good. Trim some of my more expensive top end. 6/6 seems great. This guy's a little bit slow. This doesn't trade with a lot. We ran the vegetable commercial earlier today. We'll hit the second sponsor spiel either this league or later this league or the next one. Yeah, I think Trophy's just a good card in general. So like playing good cards in your main deck is not a bad idea. And Harpooner's a little bit mediocre right now. I think Trophy's live in like every matchup in the format. It's better in some than others, but it's like live everywhere. I'm gonna run to the restroom really quick after I take my first turn. And we're back. Wow, I don't even know play again. I guess they're like just playing a 7-6 on turn 3. I guess the rest of our hand's not really accomplishing a whole lot here. Stitcher Supplier is always a card I've been like incredibly underwhelmed by in these decks. Like this card put like one thing in my graveyard. So like I basically played a 1/1 for 1 to like make this one better. Every time we've played these decks in the past, I've always wished this card was just like anything else, basically. I think we can leave that there. I guess it is good with this card. You guys like want more Cavaliers. I could see making this like play more Cavaliers and like Blood for Bones. This card's also good with those. I assume something is dying here since they didn't play a 7-6. And their hand is full of cards. Weird. I have like a lightning strike and they're just like wondering if I'm going to play something better. Yeah, we can scry it to the bottom. It's good value. Does it smell like Veil of Summer to y'all? Feels like Veil of Summer. I think I'm sacrificing this just to put more creatures in my bin for the Necrotic Wound. Yeah, and again, like, this thing milled 6 cards, and it just, like, hit 1 creature in 6 cards. Just so rancid. I feel like the Explore creatures and the 3/1 for 2, like, do a similar effect of putting creatures in your bin. While, like, also just being, like, slightly higher quality cards. Yeah, exactly. Explore lets you pick which ones go to the bin and which ones you want to draw. Which makes it pretty powerful. Our deck has 30 plus creatures in it. We boarded down on creatures, ended up having 30. So like the amount, it's just a high variance card, and the floor on it is just so incredibly low. When it's bad, it's terrible. Yep, it really is, Jam. The best is when people like unmoored ego you and name Scapeshift, or like bring in a bunch of Duresses and just like bricks. You don't have that many non-creature spells. If they have another Veil of Summer, we're going to be a little bit sad. And maybe this attack is wrong. Maybe I'm just supposed to, like, keep in a holding pattern here just because Regisaur is sitting there chewing away at their hand. That could be a very real possibility that this attack is wrong and it's too aggressive. Especially with them potentially holding up another Veil. Because the Register eventually, like, choose all the Veils out of their hand, so I could just, like, sit here and wait for them to lose a card every turn. Yeah. And this attack was too aggressive. I feel like this is one of the few matchups in this format where we're gonna have a really reasonable time with a deck like this, and even this one, we're just like, because of low quality cards like Necrotic Wound and Citrus Supplier, we're just like, gonna die anyways. Cavalier could bring back Citrus Supplier. That's technically a legal play. That's technically a legal play. Did it at least been a memorial to Folly? Nope. Of course it didn't. Of course it didn't been a memorial to Folly. The boot! Coming in hot with the 2/3 of a year of support. Welcome back. Thanks for keeping me around. You're having a wonderful day wherever you're at. Alright, so my 6/6 and my 4/5 is gonna like sit here and gum the board up here, hopefully, while they chew through their hand, and then maybe eventually they discarded a Ghalta. So we're just super dead, right? They discarded a Ghalta with this board. Can only assume they have 3 other absurd cards. Second Ghalta. That makes a lot of sense. Yep. Alright, let's try and cut the bad cards. Let's try to cut the bad cards and see how it goes. Jeff's deck building tip of the day: play less low quality cards. All right, these are all cards. These are all cards that are constructed playable, but it's like at this point, have I changed the deck enough that we're basically doing something else, right? I don't know. Yeah, I just like, do these colors have any good tools for combating Scapeshift? There aren't any good green or black. I guess we could play just some sweepers. You can play Ashiok. You play Ashiok and sweepers. Legion's End and Ashiok. Okay, let's try it. Yeah, trophy's like pseudo removal. So something like this. Yeah, are we just supposed to be a Command the Dreadhorde deck? That's probably better than Blood for Bones, right? What do we think of that? I think Legion's End's probably a main deckable card. I think Legion's End is probably a main deckable card. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like you could maybe build something like this with Legion's End and Ashiok and maybe have it be okay. But I feel like at this point, like if I'm looking at this, like what are we really ultimately doing? It feels like we veered off of the original idea so much that I'm just building something else. And generally speaking, when we have a submission, if we're building something else, that means we probably need to write it off and just call it something else. So I think if you wanted to build, like, you could probably build a green-black Command the Dreadhorde deck and have it be kind of okay. Like, Legions and an Ashiok are, like, A+ tips for, like, trying not to get gone over the top of by Scapeshift. You can play, like, Trophy and Field of the Dead. So there are good tools. There are good tools in these colors. I just feel like the core of that other green-black deck, like, there's too many things that go over the top of you. We saw in that match against the Dinos deck, we just had too many low-quality cards where, like, my 1/1-for-1s just weren't really doing anything. So I think there's a lot of different directions you could take something like this, but it's kind of just very different than the Dredge deck that we started with, which